Hello everyone, Adam here, and welcome to another episode of Endings Explained. Before we explored Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars, and today we will be exploring Ori and the Will of the Wisps, a sequel to Ori and the Blind Forest, developed by Moon Studios and published by Microsoft Game Studios. So let's get started and explore this incredible fantasy title. Taking place after the events of Ori and the Blind Forest, Kuro's unborn child has been in the care of Ori and his family. Early on in the game, the egg hatches into a brand new female owl that they named Ku. Ku is unfortunately born with a birth defect. Her wing has been badly damaged and she's unable to fly. Despite wanting nothing more but to fly, Ku falls into a deep depression. Ori wants to help his sister in any means and remembers that her mother, Kuro, left behind one final gift, her feather. Ori retrieves the feather from his stash and, with the help of Gumo, is able to attach it to Ku's wing. Now Ku is able to fly. To celebrate, Ori and Ku go off in this huge flying adventure, exploring the surrounding area of Nibel, and eventually get into a new forest called Niwen. Unfortunately, a storm starts to ravage the entire island, and Kuro's feather falls from Ku's wing, forcing Ori and Ku to crash land on the island. Now separated, Ori must locate his sister before anything bad can happen to her, while also locating Kuro's feathers so both can escape the island. Now Ori must locate his sister by any means. It's also here where we get a first taste of Ori's new abilities. In the first game, Ori was very limited to defensive actions, requiring a spirit ally in order to attack hostile enemies. In this game, Ori is more direct when it comes to combat, able to attack enemies using various weapons that you get throughout the adventure. Eventually, Ori gains access to a torch so he can defend himself against the hostile creatures within the forest. But not everything in the forest wants Ori dead. In fact, when he encounters a gate that he cannot open, Ori encounters a helpful creature who is willing to give him one half of the keystone. Unfortunately, he does not have the other half, and Ori must locate the other half. Ori is successful in this journey, fighting some enemies and eventually getting the other half of the keystone, but unfortunately loses access to his torch, having no other means to defend himself. Ori eventually gets past the gate, but there's something even greater on the other side that proves to be even more dangerous than anything else Ori has encountered so far in the forest. This is where Howl appears, a giant wolf capable of ripping Ori to shreds. Ori, with no means to defend himself, has to flee from the giant wolf. Fortunately, the wolf is extremely big and can't get through narrow corridors as easily. Unfortunately, with no means to defend himself, Ori eventually is cornered but gains access to a torch and is able to fend off Howl. He's not able to kill him completely, but he's able to do enough damage that Howl decides to retreat. Unfortunately, Ori needs to follow Howl down into its den, seeing that the only way forward is completely blocked off. When Ori finally reaches a spirit tree, he's able to gain access to a brand new power, but not before being knocked out. During this period of Ori being unconscious, we get to see what Gumo and Naru are doing. We see that the two are extremely worried about Ku and Ori because they cannot find them. They notice that a bunch of birds are flying towards an island and assume that's where Ori and Ku flew off to and decide to head to that area. We then return to Ori, where the creatures of the forest have surrounded him. They notice that Ori isn't like Howl or the Shrieker, Howl being the wolf we just encountered, and the Shrieker being a future antagonist that we will meet later on in the game. The spirit tree who shared its memory with Ori makes the creatures believe that he is an actual spirit, however they need to be absolutely sure, and asks Ori to showcase his power using the light ability granted to him by the spirit tree. The tree granted him access to the spirit edge, which is a powerful offensive weapon. Ori is able to quickly prove himself and gains the trust of the inhabitants, referred to as Moki. The creatures inform Ori that they thought all the spirits had left their forest in Newell, and that Ori needs to see the guardian of the marsh, Kulak, to help him on his journey. After some fights, gaining new abilities, and helping some of the inhabitants, we eventually meet a weapons master who's willing to exchange those light energies we've been collecting from wells and fallen enemies for new skills and talents. We also get a glimpse at Shriek, who is the Shrieker that the inhabitants have been worried about. We don't get a full image of the creature, but we do see that it's a giant owl flying in one direction, and it looks quite scary. When entering Korlok's realm, Ori is stopped by the Moki and told that they saw where Ku had landed. Unfortunately, he landed in the Silent Woods, which was their former home that they had to leave. We then flash forward to Ku's location. We see that the owl isn't entirely hurt, but is chasing after his mother's feather in hopes of gaining flight once again and rescue Ori. Ori must locate Korlok, but the only way to open his gate is by obtaining 2 keystones hidden throughout the environment. Fortunately, these aren't too hard, they're just basic platforming challenges, and if you completed Ori in the Blind Forest, these will be nothing to you. It's also here that Ori gains access to the Spirit Arc, which is basically the most broken weapon in the entire game. Trust me, this bow and arrow is extremely powerful when suited up. It can take down bosses in a matter of seconds. Ori is able to obtain both Eye Stones with ease and unlock the gate to Korlok's location. But things do not get easier. Korlok's Hollow is full of puzzle platforming challenges that would test your skill, eventually leading up to a giant boss battle against the Horned Beetle, which isn't too hard, but you do definitely need to get the pattern down or it will make short work of you. After the Horned Beetle is defeated, Ori heads deeper into Niwen and locates the Bash ability, perhaps the most important ability in the entire game. Bash allows Ori to use certain plants, enemy projectiles, and enemies themselves as platforms in order to leap further into the air. Ori uses his ability to finally locate Korlok, who is just as surprised as the Mokis that his spirit is inside the forest, specifically his marsh. He also informs that he does know where Ku is located, that she's located in the far east in the Silent Woods. Unfortunately, getting to that location is impossible due to the fact that the waters have been corrupted and swimming in them is certain death, unless you're a speedrunner. Korlok informs Ori that the only way to get the waters fresh again is to restart the mill, and although he would love to help Ori in this journey, he needs to stay with the Moki and protect them from the hostile creatures, and in case Shriek returns. We also see that Korlok is not going to leave Ori without some sort of guiding force, providing an ancient light spirit to guide Ori throughout the forest of Niwen. Before heading to the mill, Ori stops by the Wellspring Glades, which is a refugee camp for those escaping the decay that's plagued the forest. It's here that one of the refugee leaders asks Ori to aid in the reconstruction of certain areas within the camp in order to make it much more livable for everyone around you. You can collect ore in order to rebuild certain structures within the refugee camp, which does open new avenues of travel, including new merchants and the ability to unlock new items, which is great. It gives you more incentive to explore the world, and it also has a variety of merchants who are willing to sell you special items. And of course, there are side missions you can complete for extra items and more experience points. When finally getting to the mill, we get another flashback of Gumo and Naru, who have built a boat and are seeking to travel to the forest in search of Ori and Ku. Back at the mill, Ori is doing his best in order to restart the mill, which is plagued with corruption and decay, especially a creature that seems to completely have the mill under its control. Ori does his best to completely clear the creature from the mill as he travels deeper and further up the mill. Ori eventually reaches the top of the mill and finds the creature that has been causing the decay inside the water. Ori is almost killed by the creature, but is free thanks to the weapon master watching over the light spirit. Ori is free, but this creature is not too happy that it escaped its grasp and intends to kill both the weapon master and Ori. Ori must run from the creature because, I mean, look at the thing. It looks huge and it would definitely rip Ori in half. The chase scene is very intense and quite fun. It definitely tests all the skill that you've obtained up till now, including your dash ability and your bash ability, where you have to constantly use it in order to bash between several different plants as you reach closer and closer towards the end. But the creature proves no match for Ori's speed and mobility, able to escape the creature's grasp and even get the water free from decay. Ori returns to Kolak, who's ecstatic that the water is clean once again, and tells Ori that the way to the Silent Woods is clear, but warns Ori of Shriek, the stone owl that lives in the area. She's extremely dangerous, and Ori must locate Ku before she does. When entering the Silent Woods, we get our first good look at Shriek, and she is enormous and incredibly designed. At first, I was in awe of this creature, but it looks absolutely incredible, but also incredibly dangerous. Right from the start, you can notice that the Silent Woods is radically different from the rest of Newell. Whereas the rest of Newell, even though it was full of hostile creatures, was full of life, flora, and fauna, here the Silent Woods just looks dead, like it's just a giant cesspool full of toxic liquid and barely any life. And the music definitely reflects this, as it's a lot more somber and sad, reflecting Shriek's overall personality before we even met the creature. I mean, this is very well done foreshadowing. Ori finally finds Ku, alive and well. The two lovingly embrace one another, but like most things in this game, this love and reunion is short-lived. Shriek appears, almost sensing that they were there. The two hide from Shriek as she passes through. Realizing that they need to leave right away before they are found out, Ori leaps onto Ku's back and the two take off in search of Kuro's feather. Without it, they cannot leave and are stuck in the well. After successfully evading Shriek multiple times, Ku and Ori's luck eventually runs out. Shriek gets a jump on the siblings right when they're about to grab Kuro's feather. Shriek attacks and wounds Ori, who falls down a pit. Ku attempts to protect Ori, but fails and pays the ultimate price. In one of the most depressing moments in the entire franchise, Ori finds Ku dead on the floor of the Silent Woods. Unable to find the strength to go on, Ori brings his sister to the edge of the Silent Woods and lays with her, until the voice of the forest calls Kolak, who comforts Ori and explains that the voice of the forest is not at full power and cannot help Ku in its current state. Due to the Spirit Willow's passing, the light it carried was separated and scattered throughout Newell, leaving the forest vulnerable to decay, killing the spirit guardians and even Shriek's parents. Kolak tells Ori that the Moki have located the Wisps to reform the Spirit Willow's light, but Ori is the only one who can obtain them. Ori must travel throughout Newell, locating the memory, eyes, strength, and heart of the forest, and merge it with the voice of the forest in order to recreate the Spirit Willow's light. The first Wisp is located in the dark caverns of the Mouldwood depths. Down here live dangerous spiders corrupted by the decay. If Ori stays in the darkness for too long, the spiders will consume him. To counter this, Ori must locate a special ability called Flash to repel the spiders and survive in the darkness. Ori eventually encounters the queen of the spiders, Mora. This fight is pretty intense unless you find the pattern. As long as you keep Mora in close proximity of Ori, you can control Mora's actions. After a multi-phase fight, Ori is able to strip the decay from Mora and the queen is back to her senses, freeing her and her children from the decay and collecting the first wisp. The next wisp is located in Baur's reach. However, the spirit that lives there, which happens to be a giant frost bear, is hibernating due to the extreme cold. Ori wakes up the bear for a few seconds in order to gain access to the reach by using Kuro's feather, and now Ori must retrieve a new ability to heat specific areas so he can climb the massive mountain. I really like this area because it's a snow level and I like snow levels. Ori gains access to a new ability called Light Burst, allowing him to hurl balls of fire that can be bashed. While reaching the top, Ori is attacked by Shriek, who causes this massive avalanche, and it's personally one of my favorite chase sequences because it's a snow level, and like I stated, I love snow levels. Ori successfully escapes the avalanche and is found by Baur, who is now fully awake thanks to Ori recovering the memory of the forest, and Baur also tells Ori about the origins of Shriek. Shriek was apparently born alone after her family and species died after the Willow spirits separated. She wandered the forest, eventually meeting up with some of Ku's kind. The owls rejected Shriek, but not the children, and she was forced to return to the Silent Woods and live in isolation. I wondered why the other inhabitants of the forest didn't try to include Shriek or raise her. She was a baby and not a threat to anyone, but they instantly accepted Ori and Ku with ease? I mean, granted, Ori is a light spirit, but still, all Shriek needed was somewhere to belong and they just allowed her to live in isolation. What did they think was going to happen? With the memory and the eyes of the forest now located, Ori must head deeper into the Silent Woods to locate a new ability. Unfortunately, this means going through Shriek's feeding ground. After evading the deadly owl, Ori finds himself in the windswept waste. Unfortunately, the people here have fallen to the corruption and will attack Ori on sight. Ori eventually gains access to the Burrow ability, but you also have to purchase the Slam ability from the Weapons Master inside the hub area. Here's a side note, if you need a critical ability to progress in the story, maybe tell the player. They don't tell the player that they need this ability and you have to find out yourself. Anyway, moving on. After lots of swimming sections and kiting explosives inside the Luma pools, you meet up with Korlok, who has been helping Ori locate the strength of the forest. But before Ori can follow Korlok, he must locate a new ability called Swim Dash, after which Ori can follow Korlok only to find something is wrong with the Guardian. The creature from the mill is back and has taken over Korlok, eating the strength of the forest. Ori has no choice but to retreat, but is eventually cornered. This boss fight isn't difficult, especially if you powered Ori up with offensive abilities. Like I said, the bow is overpowered, and if you don't believe me, just watch this. Ori defeats the Guardian and is freed from the creature's hold. Korlok kills the creature, but unfortunately succumbs to its wounds. As Korlok fades, he asks Ori to protect Niwen as only he can. Ori heads back to the waste and to the temple where the heart of the forest resides. Using the eyes, memory, and strength of the forest, Ori opens the temple and heads inside. Inside the ruins, Ori learns of the cycle of rebirth involving the light and the willow tree. The light may be eternal, but the tree that houses that light isn't. The tree will eventually die, and the willow's children would locate the wisp to revive the tree. But the children died due to decay. A prophecy was foretold that a spirit would return to reunite the wisp, and the creators of the runes built this temple to protect the most fragile wisp, the heart, hence why the only way to unlock the temple was with the strength, memory, and eyes of the forest. With their powers combined, the wisps become Seer, and now Ori must head back to the willow tree to revive it. But, as expected, something literally comes up. A giant rockworm attacks Ori and Seer, who flee from the crumbling ruins. This is my favorite chase sequence in the entire game. The musical score, platform and challenge, and incredible choreography was just brilliant. Ori and Seer head to the willow tree, but blocking their way is Shriek. But the owl doesn't stand a chance. Seer is now at full power and is able to push back Shriek with ease. Begging for mercy on the floor, Ori calms Seer and allows Shriek to escape, offering the creature some comfort, but Shriek rejects it and flies away. This scene kinda annoyed me. The spirit tree of Niwen, who has been narrating the story, makes it seem like Shriek is at fault for not accepting the warmth of Ori. But this creature has been living in isolation, and after being rejected by everyone for its entire life, one small act of kindness isn't going to remove a lifetime of pain, so I found it completely strange that the spirit just simply expected Shriek to forget its entire life in just a blink of a moment. Ori begins his journey up the Willow Ridge in order to locate the Willow Tree and gains a new ability called Launch that allows him to literally propel himself into the air. While all of this is happening, Naru and Gumo have finally arrived in Niwen in search of Ori and Ku. However, Ori has another trouble to deal with. The corruption has spread into the Willow Ridge and he has to destroy several roots in order to weaken the corruption's hold and get to the Willow Tree. And fight one of the easiest bosses in the entire game. I mean, just watch this. Ori is successful in destroying the Decay and finds the Willow Tree. Seer is able to revive it, but it informs Ori that it can no longer hold Seer and asks Ori to merge with Seer to restore Niwen, but in doing so will leave behind its previous life. Ori agrees, and before Seer can merge with Ori, Shriek attacks and snatches Seer. Ori with no choice battles with Shriek in a multi-phase boss fight and comes out triumphant. We then see that Gumo and Naru have arrived to the resting place of Ku, confirming their worries. Shriek, still unwilling to accept change, returns to the Silent Woods, and with the last of her strength, lays down in the decayed bodies of her parents. Now, it's not clear if Shriek dies here, but it's nevertheless sad, seeing someone rejected by everyone and expected to forget all that pain in a heartbeat. But she was a danger to everyone and needed to be put down. Meanwhile, Ori, with the last of his strength, merges with Seer and restores Niwen, removing the Decay and reviving Ku while Gumo and Naru witness it. The three of them, including the Moki, head to where Ori and Seer merged and believe Ori is gone till a spirit tree begins to sprout. The three work together to cultivate the tree along with the Moki, with Ku's wing eventually healing and the tiny owl leaving for the outside world with everyone's blessing. We also learned that Ori has been the one narrating the story since the beginning. Gumo and Naru take care of the tree for the remainder of their life, and with the tree fully grown, a new spirit guardian falls and life begins anew. And that brings us to this ending explained. While I had a few issues with the narrative and some annoying bugs with the gameplay, Ori and the Will of the Wisp was still an outstanding game. You can watch my full review by clicking the link below, but overall I would recommend this game to anyone. It's also available on Xbox Game Pass and Xbox Ultimate Game Pass, so you can pay $9.99 to play the game without having to pay the full $29.99. Either way, it's a fantastic game. So what game should I explain next? Let me know in the comments below. Also check out my other endings explained. I did one for Super Mario RPG Legend of the 7 Stars and for both Mega Man Legends games. Hopefully we'll get a Mega Man Legends 3, but yeah, I don't think that's ever going to happen. Either way, like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you all next time. Stay awesome, everyone.